Hey, it's Nathan from Admiral TCG here, and I'm here to give my deck profile for the Mansfield 3v3 event, which our team won. So I played Rob Lucci for the event. I think it's got a really solid matchup spread, apart from Blackbeard and BY, but given the nature of a 3v3, that really plays into Lucci's strengths, because even if I do pair into those, I have full faith that my teammates can carry the rest of it. Lucci itself, best black leader in the game in my opinion right now, CP tag, and essentially half of Sakazuki's leader effect and half of Moriya's leader effect put together, and in all, it makes it one of the strongest leaders. Outside of the bad two decks, I think Lucci has a slight winning matchup into pretty much everything else, and then essentially wipes the floor with a Dofi, which is pretty much the best or most common deck of the format, barring the situations where the Dofi opens every Jinbei in their deck. And it also really stomps on Rogue, which in a 3v3 is quite helpful. So moving on to the list itself, first off we have for Tempest Kick, fundamentally one of the few reasons that makes Lucci far and away the best black deck in comparison to stuff like Smoker, even though it is strong in its own right. Draws a card on your early turns, and once you hit that 9 cards in trash, it starts acting as a better, greater option, which was a phenomenal card in itself. It also counts itself as a CP name, which allows it to be cycled indefinitely. Well, anything in the deck is cyclable if you put it back, but also put back for a lot of your wide-going combos. Depending on when you see your searches and what you're countering with, you can get this online quite early, and in a format where a lot of things that are quite dangerous, like Jinbei, cap out at 4, it's really helpful for hitting your Lucci combos. And then even on higher things, the fact it costs 1, it combos really well with 9-drop Kaido and some of our other high-end, but automatic 4 of, and I don't think anyone would consider cutting it. In a similar vein, 4 Ice Age, 1 Dawn, sure it doesn't draw a card, but -5 is a crazy number in black decks at the minute, and always has been, just the rest of black couldn't keep up with it. This is pretty much played at any point in the game, depending on your matchup. You use it late game to clear really big things against like Shanks. You use it quite early game to clear the big things. Purple Luffy ramps out early. You use it to clear anything in Dofi's deck, frankly, bar like maybe the 10 cost Kaido if they're still on it. But other than that, yes, it's unsearchable, but it's such a power card that swings any of your combos to be entirely in your favor. There is no reason to not be on 4 with it when things like the stage or other forms of high or cheap reduction are no longer prevalent. Next, we're on 3 Spandam. This is our searcher. Check the top 3 for a CP, ditch the rest to the trash. We started to cut down from 4 because we found it to be missing quite a bit, and that's not inherently a bad thing, because like filling the trash by 3 instead of 2 can be really helpful sometimes, but the amount of times it misses is just irritating. So with the addition of some other cards and stuff like Ice Age, we've cut it down to 3, still a CP name, still usable for value Morias, and just about anything else. It's a little iffy to weave into some of your combo lines depending on how you use your Don, but like, I know some decks were cutting it lower. I think this is a good ratio for it if you still want to have some level of consistency in setting up your bigger combos. Next, first 2k of the deck, 1 cost Suru, 2k counter, which is always helpful. The idea that like, oh, swing 6 into Lucci, I don't believe in that. Like, you still want to be swinging 7. We have add backable 2ks, it's all quite good. It costs 1, so combos really well with something like 9 cost Kaido, so you can swing leader, play Suruhu, KO a 10. Obviously call backable off Moria or Rebecca in general if it has to be used, well, played out from Rebecca, which sometimes it must be. And worst case worse, you can put 5 Don under it in a really slow game state, but it really is a 2k and cheap removal. Good with Brook on 4 to say remove a Zorojuro if you have to, but we have better cards for that, which we'll get to in a minute. Next, we have 2 copies of Helmeppo. Fills a very similar role to Suru, part of the Moria combo, as well as quite effective cost reduction if it has to be played from hand or off of Rebecca from hand. It's also a 3k body, which comes up more than you would think in matchups like Shanks or Purple Luffy, which is an odd thing to say, but quite helpful once you play it out. Like, sometimes the extra 7 is needed. It is the main Moria target. I know some decks are cutting it down to 1, but I think one's a little too inconsistent. I would rather have it as 2. That's all there really is to it. You just want to see it in trash a lot of the time. You can counter out with it. Past that, we have 2-cost Uta from the old Luffy starter deck. This is the main new addition to the deck and the main kind of tech card for most already good matchups, but it gives us a bit more favor into them. This was taken from the idea of the second place Nats list. I wanted to try it out and I found it quite good. Uta essentially reads, during your turn you may rest this unit, give something -2 cost, and also it cannot be KO'd in battle by leaders. In a best case scenario, this is essentially just the NS lobby stage on the board, and that was banned because it's crazy. This is also crazy. You play it on 2 against Purple Luffy, you can play it on 5 with Brook, or against Shanks or anything, and it essentially demands answers over and over again. It's really effective into Dofi as well if they don't like snowball with Jinbei, and like Brook, I would say is the main other card in the deck that demands answers once it hits the field. It's really flexible with Moria combos, it's really flexible with Rebecca combos, with Jack. It really just raises the ceiling of the deck that one little bit more, and like, yes, we're on 2 more non-counter, but you play it on 2 and just kind of hope for that. It is only a 2 of. There are games I would like to see it more, but it put in a lot of work over the course of the event, and I'm quite happy it kind of found its place. Plus, I'm quite a big Uta fan, so it's nice to finally put her in the deck instead of just looking at her in the binder. Speaking of main cards that combo with Uta, 3-cost Brook from EBO1, 4 of, one of the most flexible cards printed in black recently. On play and on attack, give something -1, then KO a 1 cost, or is it a 0? It's a 0, right? Yeah.
It's -1, KO
Yeah.
0.
So KO is a 1. But no. Incredibly flexible with the Uta for KOing early, incredibly strong for KOing later with Rebecca and something like Ice Age, and also in some situations you just turn Brook sideways to get the reduction. Having enough of Brooks in a matchup where they're not inherently dealt with quickly means you can just get kind of a free 2 or 1 reduction on something else, and that's really helpful with either Jack or your Moria combos. If it sticks, you start pressuring with it, like chip 5s, chip 4s at like lower cost bodies, if they exist in some matchups. Really helpful for outing 2-cost Teach. I can't stress enough how flexible of a card this is in a deck like Lucci, especially when your leader effect is inherent like cost reduction, and that's why it's an instant 4 of. Not much else to say. I think it is one of the best options to be on at the minute. After that, 2 Spandine. Probably the other big reason we would play Lucci over other decks is this is kind of the crux of the CP engine at this point. You mill it or hold it in hand, and it essentially allows your Rebecca to play Lucci, and you get the best of both worlds with Moria. One best world being Rebecca and Brook, the other being Lucci to KO 2 things. Spandine means you don't have to pick. It's crazy, it is broken, and yes, it is a little like taxing to put the 3 cards back for the cost, but it's worth it, especially once you've got the mill engine going, like Tempest Kick and all the others are really powerful for doing that. There's a lot of really neat things you can do with Moria that like play it over your other bodies to make sure you hit the certain numbers and certain characters in trash for it, but it's mainly just to bring Lucci back with the Rebecca combo. There are worlds and cases where I use it with some of either upcoming 4-cost Kaku or 4-cost Califer, and you use them to elevate the ceiling on your like Jack KO, and I think that's really neat, but objectively Rob Lucci is the card that this is built for. It's a 2 of because we don't want to see it massively, but we want to mill it or see it in hand at least once. Speaking of Kaku, we are on 2 of the 4-cost Kaku 2k counter. It's a nicely statted body, it's a 2k, it's a Cypher Pole name. In addition, on play, you put 2 Cypher Pole names back to the bottom of your deck and it gives something -3. This is really good on 5 if you've established Book on 3, because then you can KO a 5. Which is really nice tempo if you see it in hand. As I said previously, with Spandine, it can KO Jack. You can bring it back off Moria if you really want to, but at the end of all things, it's a searchable 2k that is add-backable off Rebecca. It fits names. It has really, really effective reduction on it for the size of its body, and I think upping it is like, it used to be at 1, now we're at 2. I really like this as a 2k over something like the Who's Who that KOs. We'll get to that when we get to the 5-cost Kaku a bit later, but I really like this. There are worlds where I'd maybe want it at 3, but we're quite tight on space, and I do think Caliphate overall has a slightly better value. Speaking of Caliphate, we are on 3 Caliphate. Was 4 until we kind of really thought about the event, and then we had to make cuts somewhere. This puts us on 3, 5, 8 2Ks still in total. Caliphate is, again, Cypher Pole name 2K, little smaller body, but probably a stronger effect. It has on play, give something -2, draw 2, ditch 2. Really good for filling your trash, KOing 4 costs early, and really just another searchable 2K you can cycle with Rebecca. There is very little you can kind of say when Ice Age and Tempest Kick do most of the heavy lifting, but they are really nice. Both Kaku and Caliphate are really nice backup plays when you start to run out of your big instant cost reduction, and can then use them later to kind of either put bodies on board or just find that last bit of reduction you're missing. Up next, 4 copies of the man himself, Rob Lucci. 4 cost 6k, Cypher Pole. On play, put 3 cards, any 3 cards from the bottom of your deck to the bottom of your deck from your trash to KO a 2 and a 1. This is the final part of what makes Lucci the best black deck, and currently, and that's the consistent ability to KO 2 things instead of 1. It is an insanely powerful effect, especially when comboed with effects like Tempest Kick or Ice Age. To do Lucci and Ice Age on 6, even if you have to, like, it's a little heavy investment for how you want to manage your resources, but you can just jump so far ahead on tempo that, like, it's good enough on the game, especially if, like, their plays kind of even out and your Moris are there. Really good into Dofi, really good into Shanks because it's a 6k body, really good into Purple Luffy. There is really no matchup where this is bad. Even in Black Beige, you just play it as a vanilla and the body is strong enough to play there. I cannot say enough good about Rob Lucci. It does have no counter, but we kind of have to deal with that at this point given how powerful the card is, and it really linchpins the entire control aspect of the deck. 4 of the Rebecca blocker. On play, this adds back a card, a black card costing between 3 and 7 to your hand, and then plays out a 3 or less from your hand. You use this to cycle Brook to get, like, effective cost reduction for the 4-Don of Rebecca, to add back pieces you're missing, like Jack, to go like Rebecca on 5, add back Jack to play it on 7 is really good. You use it as part of Moria, you use it to add back Spandine. It is probably the one piece of non-engine that really linchpins the deck together. Even if we lost some of our pieces of high-end to a ban list, Rebecca kind of pushes so many pieces together, it makes the deck work. Has to absolutely be a 4 of, even in formats where it gets bounced or like easily played around by Shanks, it still requires that Don investment to make it function less as a blocker. And in some matchups, you really do just need to put it down and say, like, okay, if you're going to play like a big cost, you can't out this blocker. Little susceptible to Rayleigh, but I think given, like, if you put enough bodies on the board, the Rayleigh is maybe a little more focused elsewhere, but I can't say enough good about Rebecca. It's kind of the main Moria target, given the fact Spandine exists, and just a really solid play at any point in the game. Moving to 5 costs, we're on 2 5-cost Kaku now. CP name, 5 cost 6k, 1k counter. On play, you put 2 cards back with the CP name, and you KO a 3 or less. Some people would call this a tech card, some people don't run it as part of the main Cypher Pole engine. I am of the personal opinion it should be. I really like it to play on either 5 against Dofi if you get that first in the die roll, on 6. I really like plays on 10 where if you have Jack established, you can go like 4 cost Kaku, 5 cost Kaku, then like Ice Age Jack and wipe 2 things even if you haven't seen Moria. The 6k is really nice, the 1k counter is really nice into decks where there are more aggressive formats. The extra street CP name is really nice. And also, given the fact that Who's Who pitches a card for the same effect, I would much rather personally be on this one. It used to be on 3 in prior formats, but we are cutting it down to make space for some of the other tech cards. And there's not much else to say about it. It's a really nice on-curve KO effect, or late game if you're starting to run out of bigger options. 2 5-cost Sabo, 5-cost 6k blocker, on play, draw 2 cards, pitch 2 cards, really nice filter, and then all of your characters cannot be KO'd until the start of your next turn. Really good in the mirror, really good against other black decks, and really good against BY specifically, which is why it's at 2. The original list we took this from was on 1, but was considering 2. I swapped out a 0 cost event for it. I kind of believed filtering would fix the counter, like non-counter issue in the same way that having the 0 cost would, and it didn't do me wrong. It's a little iffy sometimes into Dofi because of how fast the matchup is, and it's not super proactive, but if you can kind of get to a point of controlling the board, I would say that Sabo is safe enough to play. It's quite good into Shanks because it gets around some of their blockers unless they have something like Red Snake Reduction, or not their blockers, but their blocker removal. And past that, I just think it's a really solid card. It's a 6k, which is swingable. There are some really nice lines where, like, on 6, if you've had a really explosive start, you can Sabo to pitch 2 and then, like, turn your Tempest Kick on for the Brook you played last turn. It is much less prevalent in the meta, so numbers are a little flexible, and, like, this as a slot is in question, but I really like Sabo still, and like I really find the value when I do get to play it. Moving on, I believe we are now into a high end. We are on 3 copies of the 7 cost Jack. While in the field, it counts as an 11 cost, so it's really good against other black decks, and during your turn, activate main, you can rest this card to draw 1 card, pitch 1 card, and then KO a 3 cost. The filter's really nice, the 7 cost AK body is really nice, the KO's effect is really nice to elevate kind of your Moria plays in both of KOing either 3 things or using Moria to play more defensively and do a reduction to KO with Jack. And the more big bodies we have for decks like BY and Shanks, the better I feel. It also draws targets really well. Like, yes, sometimes you'll play Jack and it'll just get swung into, but if you have enough crackback, like, that's just the turn you needed. The longer the game goes, the better you are generally doing. 3 of, because it is addable back, and we are like really pushing the high end already. But if we didn't have to tech for some of the matchups like Blackbeard, and I wanted more high end, it would probably be the 4th Jack I'd be looking for. It's great with Ice Age, it's great with Tempest Kick, works really nicely with like the Kaku and Califer if you need it, as well as Helmeppo or like Suru. There are so many flexible lines with Jack. Its release really kind of elevated the deck even further than it probably already needed. Up next, 4 copies of Gecko Moria, 8 cost 9k, on play, summon a 4 cost and a 2 cost from your trash, 1 active, 1's rested. It gives the deck its explosive power. It's one of the strongest combo tools probably ever printed, and I think, like with most decks in the format at this point, some of their best cards are cards that play other cards, cheating their doms. The fact it's 8 means you can use it with Ice Age on 9, or Tempest Kick, or Ice Age on 10. If you really have to do it, you can play a Helmeppo from hand with it, then if you have enough bodies, play it over. There's so many flexible lines with Moria. To talk about them all, I'd be here forever. But realistically, the main one is Moria with some reduction into Rebecca, and then reduction if you don't need the reduction. I really like to put the 2 cost Uta on the board with Moria now. If I don't need the reduction, yes, Spandam searches, but the Uta says, okay, I have more reduction next turn, you need to swing into this if you really want it gone. It's also a 3k body. If you don't, just play another Helmeppo to more reduction, and then KO 2 things and set up a blocker. 9k body is huge into a lot of matchups. Like, we don't have the power of, say, like a 12k Shanks body or the 10 cost Luffy body in purple now, but 9k is more than enough, as once you control the game, this just points at your opponent's leader. Really nice for getting over Giant as well in purple decks. Finally, we are teching 2 9 cost Kaido. This is a tech for BY. I would rather be on Nightmare Luffy if I was just teching for BY, but this is for Blackbeard. With Tempest Kick, it outs their 10 beard and just rips a card out of their already very thin hand. It's great, and that's why we put it in, but I found a lot of success with it in other matchups. I find it really quite good in Shanks, like they're trying to save their hand, but you put it down quite well. And that, with, like, again, with Tempest Kick, you just remove any of their 10 beards. I find it quite good in slower matchups, again, so like red-purple Luffy as well. It's not super great into purple Luffy, unless you really have control of the board already, and it's not great into Dofi, although I did find good success with it over the weekend. But I was surprised by how like useful this was in other matchups, aside from just being a tech card. I quite liked it as a card in general, but it didn't really have a place previously, but I'm happy it's found one now, and it also just pitches more non-counter out of your hand if you really need it. Helpful going first as well, if you just need to curve into like an 8 with leader effect, or just a 7, like 7s are becoming more prevalent with Luffy Taro or Ben Beckman. But that's the list. It's got a lot of flexible combos, and I'm really happy with how it performed across the whole event. As for the event itself, I was placed in the middle of our team. I wasn't planning to do that. Like, either my brother or Tom, they both play the decks, like all three of the decks, a bit more than me, but they said, Nathan, we think a lot of Dofis will go in the center. As you're on Lucci, you should go. And they were absolutely right. Round one, I paired into Dofi. Fairly clean game, nothing much to say except I established Jack, and from there, after playing Moria, I had total control of the board. Game two, I paired into Shanks, which was a little iffy. Like, I was quite lucky to draw like my pieces when I needed them, and he missed a second 10 cost for Ben Beckman, which the Kaido just outed really easily as I was starting to run out of things. And then once he got back to his 10 costs, it wasn't enough. Round three, I played Dofi again, and this one was really weird. It was a really slow matchup to the point where, as on his 8 Dawn, he got to play just essentially Jozu, bounce something, bounce mine. And on 9, I managed to drop the Kaido, which was really good, and I was never expecting given how slow the matchup was going and how fast it should be in theory. But that felt really good on that. Final round, I paired into Nami. This was the round I lost in Swiss. Really well played by the Nami, really great line to like understand the last 10 cards in his deck and get through that. I think I played it fairly well, like establishing big bodies where I can and then just trying to swing big numbers and trying to play around the white snakes, but no, he got it and like it was really good, but like my teammates played really well and got us into top cut there despite my loss in the game. Top 4 of top cut, played the people who played in round 1 again. Again, another weirdly slow Dofi matchup where I got to Kaido or Jozu that was put on the field. I don't know what was going on that day, but it felt really good. And then just playing Moria after that really set up the field. And I went, yeah, 2 9k bodies will just swing through everything you've got left at this point. And then in finals, I played the Nami again, and I managed to get the win on the run back, which I was really proud of. Like, he plays it really well. On 3 Dawn, he opened Pilaf into Pilaf on 5 into Pilaf on 7, and then had 2 like draw true triggers in life, and I thought that probably swung it in his favor. But I had a really nice turn where I like removed all of his Kayas and played like a second Moria, and then just said I'm not swinging. Nice job on the Don, and then with 2 9k bodies, and then like Lucci and Sabo to swing 999, it felt really good. Really happy with how I played overall, and I'm really happy with how the team performed. I'm quite glad they put me in the middle, because while I don't have the best confidence on all of the decks we were playing, I'd like to say some of the most confidence in both of my teammates, and every time they looked at me, while I wasn't able to give them the best play, I was able to give them reassurance about like their own ability, and I think that put them in really good stead for going into their next turns, or like choosing lines that they had faith in or maybe were doubting a little. But yeah, that's the list. The other 2 lists will be coming either in this video or in separate videos. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.